Horoscope 101. Happy Sunday. I'm actually filming this on a Saturday, but sometimes it's really easy for me to make them on a certain day and upload them later. James does that a lot too. And as you can tell by my shopping bags back there, I have been shopping today. Not for DVDs, but something I haven't been doing very much of lately, and that's for clothing. Now, Nordstrom's does a sale once a year that they put all their fall stuff on sale, so I'm there. Also got my Starbucks little birthday cake pop. I'm a cake pop freak. Okay, so we're going to talk about 90s horror. And I was thinking about doing a first watch this week, but I decided not to. I wanted to do a film that to me was not, Scream. It wasn't the typical like 90s horror. I wanted to pick something that encompassed the 90s, the feeling of the 90s, the tone. And this was a film that was put out in, I believe it was released in 1997, but it was actually released in 1998 in the U.S. It was a Canadian film that was released, I believe, at the Toronto Film Festival in 1997. It was released in the U.S. in 1998. And that is Cube. Not The Cube, just Cube. To me, this is more of a psychological horror film, and the reason why I think it gets put in the horror category is because of the gore. I think if you took the gore out, it would still be considered maybe a psychological drama, a psychological thriller, and it still could be considered a psychological thriller, but I would consider it a little more horror because of the gore that gets thrown in, and that's what kind of puts it over the edge for me for being a really fantastic film, because they don't hold back. I suggest if you've never seen this, don't rent it, buy it. I say that, of course, but I don't own the film. I think I used to. I think it might be in Tennessee, but like I said, between the moves and who knows, my brother might have it, my mom might have it. Tons of my stuff is still in Tennessee, even though it's been literally like 6 or 7 years since I moved. Let's see. 6 years, whatever. Okay, so some stuff's still there, but yes, buy this film. I will also suggest its sequel as well. They're very different, but I love it. So I'll kind of tell you the plot. I'm not going to give spoilers because, what I've tried to do over the last few weeks is just do spoiler-free, because these are supposed to be suggestions. If you've never seen this movie, walk, don't walk, run is what I'm saying. And sorry, it's a little early if I seem kind of, whoa, because I literally went out to go shopping super early before it got really busy. So anyway, basically, it starts out with a man in this room. It's very dimly lit, and there's doors kind of on every, it's on every wall, I guess you could say. And you find out that these, that people have been put into this cube structure, and to where they have to find their way out. So like I said, the first scene kind of involves one guy, but the main story encompasses 5 main characters all kind of put together, and they realize that, they don't know each other, and they realize that they have to find their way out of this huge cube structure. The cube is not just the room. The cube is this entire, it's room after room after room and after room. It'd be like being in the middle of like a huge gargantuan Rubik's Cube and having to find your way out. Well, here's a little hint. If you make the wrong choice and go into a room that it was, like I said, was the wrong choice, you could be killed, immediately, by whatever different devices and ways that they want to kill you. So there comes the horror aspect of it. You could die. So these 5 people have to go, okay, is it that door? Is it that door? Is it that door? Is it that door? And which one do we pick? And thankfully they have someone that is, they see the mathematics of it, so they can try to kind of say, okay, if we do this equation and, whatever. I don't want to give too much away. Let's say, okay, why did I pick this for 90s horror week? And like I said, to encompass the 90s. I think the 80s was all, when I think of 80s horror movies, I think of the cheeseball factor. I think of summer camps, Friday the 13th, sleepaway camp. I think of that kind of campy 80s, not very technological, very simple. And when you got into the 90s, it was all about technology. You had hackers and you had, computer viruses. Very soon after this film came out, people were dealing with the Y2K thing. And so I don't know why this film just reminded me more of, it was more technological. It was not, it looked very high tech. And that to me is why it just perfectly encompasses the 90s to me, more so than, when you think 90s horror, you automatically think about Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer, stuff like that. But I think Cube kind of even more so encompasses that whole tone of what the 90s was. And that was technology from 1990 to 2000 completely changing. I mean, it changed a lot in the 80s too, but wow, the 90s, it was all about tech. It's all about email. It was all about the internet and stuff like that. And I'm not saying this film is that technological, but it just seems like it fits in that tone of what the 90s was. And I just thought it was a perfect pick for 90s Horror Week. If you have not seen Cube, please go check it out. It is one of the most underrated films I can think of. Nobody really talks about it. I haven't really heard that many people bring it up. It has no actors that I really know of. It was a Canadian film. Please go see this. I think if you know of Cube, you're like, oh yeah, that's one of the most awesome films ever. But if you haven't, it just kind of flew under the radar. And please go check this out. Just like last week where I was kind of pleading with people, watch The Changeling if you like kind of the haunted house type stuff. If you think you like 90s horror and want something that's very in the vein of the 90s, definitely check out Cube and also check out its sequel. So this is kind of a shorter video. This is me pleading with you. Go watch Cube. It's fantastic. I will see you next week. James is going to be with you tomorrow. Check me out on my other channel, Lunaria Claire, for an update pretty soon. I've started a new job, so I haven't been doing as many videos over there in the last week. I hope to do at least 1 or 2 videos a week still until I get kind of more used to working and stuff like that. So everyone have a fantastic rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you next week. Go watch Cube.